first point is the RBCs. Okay, Vatsala, can you please unmute yourself and read out the points, dear? The points on RBC.
This is also called erythrocytes. RBC is a red disc-shaped cell with no nuclei. They are made in marrow and contain hemoglobin, an iron compound that gives blood a dark red color. RBC binds with oxygen form of hemoglobin, and the blood comes bright red, becomes. The red cells pass oxygen to the body cells by the process of diffusion and then returns to the lungs with hemoglobin. Oxygen to the body cells by the process of diffusion and then return to the lungs with hemoglobin.
Correct. Okay. So, just going by one again. Thank you, Vatsala. When we say erythrocytes, what is the meaning of erythrocytes? As I said, as I keep saying every time, that in science, every terminology has got a meaning. So, who is going to say what is the meaning of erythro?
Ma'am, is it red?
Very good. Erythro means red. And what is the meaning of cytes?
Ma'am, cells.
Very good. So basically it is self-explanatory. Erythro means red, cytes means cell. To simplify it, we call it the red blood corpuscles or the red blood cells. Correct? See, there is another word called cyano. This is again a color, a pigment, which you find in a few plants, not really plants, in the plant kingdom.
Ma'am, in frogs, ma'am, they have hemocyanin.
Yeah, correct. So basically this is cyano is a blue tint or a blue pigment.
Yes, ma'am.
There are a few unicellular organisms which have this pigment. So they look blue in color. A few which have a very high amount of cyanoglobin maybe, which is a protein, when it binds with a protein globin, then they have a violetish blue color. Right? So there are all the colors, they have a scientific name. Like cyano would be blue, erythro would be red. This can be applicable to the plant family as well as to the animal kingdom, both. Thankfully, we human beings do not come in color. We have only one single color, right? Flesh tones, which again varies in shades. Okay. So what, okay, just a general knowledge. So which is the pigment that we human beings have, which lends color to our skin?
Ma'am, hemoglobin.
No, skin I said, not blood.
Ma'am, melanin.
Very good, melanin. Melanin. People who have got very little melanin, they are the fairest. They have very little melanin, like, the Americans or the Nordics, that side. And people who have got moderate to high amount of melanin, good amount of melanin, they have brown colored skin. People who are have rich melanin content, they would be like the Africans who have very, very, very high amount of melanin. For example, our hair too has this pigment. That's why it's black in color. People who have lesser melanin in their hair, they will have a brownish streak. With age, the melanin fades away, and that is when they have gray hair. Basically, the RBCs are, red in color, of course. They are a little disc shaped. They are like a, all of you must have played with a frisbee, right? With a frisbee. You know how you throw the frisbee, right, to your friend? So it is like a disc. So the RBCs also, they resemble like a disc, mini discs, like this. They are a little swollen in the middle, right? And they have no nuclei. They do not have a nuclei. Most of the cells, we know 99% of the cells have nuclei, but the RBCs do not have nuclei, right? And, every cell is normally made, at their own origin. For example, the kidney cells are made in the kidney, right? The cheek cells are made in the cheek region. But where are the red blood cells made? The red blood cells are made in the bone marrow. Where do we find the bone marrow? Priscilla, will you be able to tell me where do we find the bone marrow? Where is the bone marrow found in our body? Who can answer?
Ma'am, it's in the
Ma'am, I
longest
think-
bones, ma'am.
It is in the
Longest bones, ma'am.
It is in the longer bones of our body, because most of our bones, you know, they are hollow inside, right? They are hollow. So that is the region where the bone marrow is found, right? And that is exactly where the RBCs are also produced, right? So is this self-explanatory that, you know, the blood, you know, is also supplied till our bones, till our skeletal system, because as the RBCs are produced here, so there is transportation happening, you know, along the other parts of the body and the bones also. Whatever food we eat, like people say you have to have egg, you have to have spinach and milk rich in calcium. So how will it reach the bones? If we eat, that goes to the digestive tract. From the small intestine, it will go to the blood, and then the blood will carry it till the bones and tell that, chalo, now you have a lot of calcium, chalo, feed, nourish yourself. Okay? So bone marrow is where the RBCs are prepared. Now the next point is, as we have already studied, hemoglobin is HB. You know, hemoglobin is HB. The scientific, we also write it in short, heme, right? It is basically an iron compound, right? Fe is an iron compound that gives blood a darkish tinge. It imparts the red color in the blood.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
H means heme. Then what is B?
That is hemoglobin. B, you know, doctors would write HB as hemoglobin, the short form of hemoglobin. You
Okay,
can, they can also write this as, when they write prescriptions, they just write HB as hemoglobin. Maybe the B stands for the B from the globin.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. Now RBC combines with oxygen to form oxyhemoglobin, right? So basically what happens is that hemoglobin is basically a protein, right? It comes in the form of globules, you know. These are like tiny globules. That's why they call it globin. Globin is a form of protein, right? Now, when oxygen is inhaled, when we inhale oxygen, right? So this one oxygen compound binds with one hemoglobin compound. And that is when they become oxyhemoglobin. And that is, you know, how they reach the heart, right? So basically when we take oxygen, just visualize this process. We are taking oxygen. Sorry, I'm very poor in drawing. This is our, uh, we are taking oxygen here, right? It reaches our lungs, right? It reaches our lungs. Now, after it reaches our lungs, what happens? You know, there are a lot of alveoli, there are a lot of air sacs present. So, oxygen comes here, it mixes up with the blood here, and it becomes oxyhemoglobin, right? And then from here, it goes to the heart, right? It goes to the heart here. What does the heart do? The heart is like a motor. It has, you know, the lungs doesn't have the capacity to push this to the entire, all the part of the body. But the heart is a very strong machine which has the capacity to push blood throughout the body through its rhythmic contraction and relaxation. So it will push that oxyhemoglobin blood to the entire body, so that each and every cell, you know, the cells present at the end, at the tip of our toes, will also get oxygen. How will oxygen flow? It has befriended with hemoglobin, which sits very cozily on the RBC, and the RBC goes till the end of the toes and then supplies the tiniest of the cell, and then carries all the waste material and then goes back to the heart for filtration or for purification. This is how the entire, you know, transportation happens. We will study about circulatory system in our next class. Okay. Now, the red cell pass the oxygen to the body cells with a process of diffusion and then return to the lungs with hemoglobin. So basically, as I said, when the oxyhemoglobin reaches the cell, for example, this is the cell of our maybe finger, right? This is a cell, right? There are many cells like this. So these are all cells, multiple cells we have. Now, how will that oxyhemoglobin of the blood enter the cell? The other day, remember, we had studied through diffusion.
Ma'am, through diffusion and the oxygen, it detaches from the hemoglobin.
Correct, excellent. This is when, because remember I said that, the cell walls are semi-permeable. The cell membranes are semi-permeable. So what happens is that oxygen, as I said, selectively it will choose. So selectively only oxygen will go out. Go inside the cell and will give it all the nourishment that is required for the cell, because each and every cell requires oxygen to survive. And during the course of circulation, when there are a lot of action happening inside the cell as well, so there's a loss of toxic material that is available, so that will throw out the toxic material back to the blood. The blood will carry all the waste materials. So this is like a continuous process, and this takes a few seconds to happen, right? This 5.5 liters of blood, I think so, I don't know if I'm not wrong, I think so, it is almost 1 lakh times that our heart beats in a day, right? So just imagine at what speed the blood is circulating throughout the body, and at what speed all this diffusion, all these exchanges of oxygen, waste material, food, nutrition, everything is happening, which is like a continuous process. So you have to keep on eating every 6 hours, 4 times in a day, because each and every cell needs to be nourished. They cannot be, the moment you skip one meal, for example, you don't have your breakfast, you skip your breakfast, you will start feeling dizzy. You will immediately start lacking energy. Why? Because the cells will get sapped. What will happen to the cells is that the cells will become totally squeezed like this. These cells will become squeezed because they would not have much water left. They would not get oxygen. Oxygen, of course, you're breathing, but then again, most of it will not get the nutrition from the food because you skipped your breakfast. So, your body will feel a little laxed and lethargic. You will feel that, oh, I don't feel like doing any work, right? You will feel thirsty because all the cells have, utilized whatever little water they had. They'll feel dehydrated. You'll feel dehydrated. So you cannot allow this to happen. You always have to eat every 4 hours, in an interval of every 4 hours, so that all your cells are replenished. Your blood is fully charged up. They reach each and every cell, right? So each and everything that we do is for a reason. Each and everything that is happening inside our body is for a reason.